Hey guys, and welcome to today's lesson. I want to talk to you today about the negative feedback loop. So what you should have already learned by now, or what you should appreciate, is that our body is a delicate balance of different hormones. So the endocrine system in the human body is responsible for producing and releasing these hormones, okay? And so these hormones are controlled by a higher power, if you like, and this is the brain, okay, or the nervous system. So today I want to actually talk about one specific chemical that is essential for human life, and how this is controlled in the human body. Okay, so this is referred to as a negative feedback loop. Okay, and basically, what you'll learn when you start to look at hormones in depth is that our body's a very delicate balance of hormones, and when something comes up, or when a chemical comes up, or there's too much of a chemical, something else comes down. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is insulin. Okay, and if you haven't already learnt about insulin, insulin is the chemical that is produced and released by the pancreas. Okay, the pancreas sort of sits just below your liver, and this is responsible for controlling sugar levels. All right, so I'm just going to put that down. Controlling, and you should get this down as well, controlling sugar levels. All right, we're going to start at the brain. I want to start talking about the level at the brain. Okay, now in the brain and in the midbrain, and it's almost like a stem, okay? Don't laugh because I can't really draw. Okay, we have an organ called the hypothalamus. All right, so the hypothalamus. All right, and so the hypothalamus is responsible for what we call homeostasis. So homeostasis is the regular control of temperature. It's the control of sugar levels in your body. It controls your core body temperature, like I just said. It controls the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your body. It controls a variety of things that I probably just can't think about right now because I want to focus on insulin. So what happens when you're low in sugar? Okay, and a lot of you, or we've all experienced these symptoms from time to time, sometimes on a daily basis, especially if you skip meals. So when your sugar levels are low, okay, the kind of symptoms that you would experience is lethargy, or when you become lethargic. All right, fatigue, loss in concentration, okay, headache, all right, so headaches, these are all symptoms of low sugar levels. All right, and so what your brain sort of does, and it is a bit dramatic, it sort of kicks into survival mode. And this is our evolutionary instincts. It kicks kind of into survival mode, and what it does is it tries to preserve your sugar levels. So this is almost like when you're hungry, you start to become fatigued, you start to lose concentration, you start to get a headache. And so what you would do, or what your brain is trying to encourage you to do, okay, is to have a stimulus, to get sugar from a different source. Okay, so this is why if you've skipped breakfast, and if you go for a while, especially in the mid-morning, you start to feel these symptoms because you're low in sugar. So you need a stimulus, you need to eat something. All right, so this is why we get hungry, we eat, okay, because our hypothalamus is telling us that we are not homeostatic, we are not normal, so we are not at a normal level, so we need to eat something. So I'm just going to draw, I'm going to eat here a cupcake, right? I'm going to just draw this cupcake. All right, so the reason why I draw a cupcake is not because I'm craving a cupcake, but because cupcake contains what we call sugar. So it contains a lot of sugar. All right, so this is what is going to give us energy. This is why usually when you eat, these symptoms will usually subside straight away. So you start to not really feel lethargic, the fatigue's gone, the headaches are gone, is because your body has ingested the sugar. And carbohydrates is also an important macronutrient that I want to talk about, because a lot of you would have heard people say, I'm counting my macros. Okay, when they're referring to macros, so you're referring to your fats, your proteins, your carbohydrates. Okay, your macronutrients are very important, because carbohydrates, and this is why we need to control our consumption of carbohydrates. In order for our body to process carbohydrates, they break carbohydrates into sugar. Okay, so something like a cupcake would not only be high in sugar, but would also be high in carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are broken down into sugar for our body to process. All right, so what happens is our blood recognizes, and our body sort of recognizes, that there is an increased amount of sugar. So increased amount of sugar will prompt our pancreas, okay, so our endocrine gland sitting just below the liver, will actually produce and excrete insulin. All right, insulin. All right. So the reason why it excretes insulin is because insulin will control and bring sugar levels down. So what happens when your body is flooded with sugar, insulin will be released into your blood. Okay, it'll go to your cells, and it'll tell your cells to take up the glucose. All right, it'll tell your cells to take up glucose. So take up sugar. All right, so to take up glucose. All right, this is why food choices are very, very important, and what you eat will usually affect your energy. Okay, so you know how sometimes after lunch, especially, you sort of get post-lunch drowsiness, is what I sort of like to call it. Now, the reason why we get post-lunch drowsiness, okay, is because we've had quite a bit of sugar, and so there is what's called a peak. All right, so our sugar levels peak. And so having too much sugar can also make us lethargic, fatigued, and lose concentration. Just think about how hard it is to concentrate after lunchtime, after you've had a pretty big meal and you sort of just want a nap. Okay, this is because you've had quite a bit of sugar. That's why it's important to control the amount of sugar that you have. And so this is why insulin kicks in, and it takes up glucose. It forces our cells to take up glucose, but it also lowers our sugar level. So it lowers sugar levels. All right. And then what happens is you maintain what's called homeostasis. So this is what we want to be at. So this is a good level. Homeostasis is a really good thing. Whoop, my pen's flying everywhere. So I just want to sort of highlight this, that homeostasis is where we want to be. Okay. And then once we're homeostatic, over time, our blood sugar will start to dip. All right. And we will start to experience those symptoms that I spoke about. So we'll start to become lethargic, fatigued. We lose concentration. Okay. So sometimes if I skip breakfast, I will start to feel lethargic, fatigued, and I'll start to lose concentration. Sometimes if I've had an early lunch, by the time I get to dinner time and I haven't really eaten anything and I've been running around doing quite a few things, my brain starts to sort of shut down. Some people will describe this as brain fog, okay, where your brain just starts to feel like you can't really do much. Okay, so this is where we experience brain fog. So once our blood sugar will start to lower again, or it starts to dip, I'm going to just put dip there, okay, it will go back to this process. All right, so it'll go back to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will detect that we are not homeostatic, we are not at a normal temperature. It will start to kick in with these symptoms, and this will usually encourage you to eat. Usually you start to get sugar cravings, or you start to want to eat certain foods because you're not at a homeostatic level. okay? And then it goes back into the process where you eat something, you get an increased amount of sugar, your pancreas starts to kick in again, and it starts to produce and excrete insulin. Insulin gets taken up by the cells. You're then at a happy level, at a homeostatic level, and then for a while you go down, okay? So the reason why we are usually encouraged, and this is why nutrition is a really, really important and a very, very interesting area to study. The reason why nutrition is really important is because you want to stay at this level, okay? So eating the right foods will ensure that your body has a maintained and a healthy level of sugar. If you're eating junk food, or if your diet consists of quite a bit of junk food, what happens is you go through a lot of these peaks and dips, okay? If you go through a lot of these peaks and dips, you'll start to feel like it's almost like feeling a bit of bipolar, or feeling two spectrums. Like all of a sudden you've got this burst of energy, but then when you come down from that sugar, because your insulin starts to kick in, you start to feel very, very tired. So having foods that are going to be nutritionally balanced will make sure that you feel like you have energy without feeling the highs and the lows. So that's why it's really, really important to be in that middle section and to maintain the amount of sugar in your blood. Okay, so I hope that you did learn something in that lesson today. Make sure that you get these notes down. Any questions, please either comment below or send me an email. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye for now.